Hey, what's up everyone? Today we are going to be creating a navigation menu in Webflow. So navigation menus are fairly easy to make if you know how to do it. So I'm going to be running you through the process on how to make it responsive and have other features like a drop-down menu and buttons that aren't part of regular navigation menus. And I'm also going to show you how to make it responsive. So this is our design file over here. It's not real code, and we're going to actually be creating this, making it responsive and work properly with Webflow. So over here, I already have one created. If I go to the live page here, refresh, we can see that there's a drop-down menu, which this is not styled, but we'll be styling one together. We have a link here, a button, and a login button here. So let's go ahead and actually create this navigation menu. So here's my current menu that I have here. I'm gonna select this and I'm gonna click the hide button, and we're gonna create a new one from scratch together. So if I click the plus button here, and then if I scroll down to the navbar menu here, and bring it up to the top here, we're gonna drag it up even higher to the very top. We can see that we have a blank navigation menu, and it's very bland. It doesn't have much going for it. It has an empty image slot right here, a link, and it also has a toggle menu. If we go to the preview and we click it, we can see that it's very basic and has basic functionality. So it looks like the functionality is working. We just need to design it properly and implement what this design file has. So the first thing we're going to do is extract the logo here. And I already have it extracted, so I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna click on the plus menu and I'm gonna add an image inside of this little box here. And this comes by default with every navigation menu. So we're gonna choose an image. We're going to select at the bottom here, I already have the logo. Select it and click HDPI. This makes it Retina, which is for newer screen models. I highly recommend clicking this every time. But just be aware that every time you use this feature here, make sure you export your assets in 2x or use something like a SVG file that scales on all screens. So this is a regular PNG file. So I'm just going to click this HIDPI. All right, so we have the logo here. That's good. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add these links over here. So we're going to start with the first three here, blog, about us, FAQs. So we're going to click this, double click into that, say blogs, about us. It's actually regular. Looks like this already says about us. And then FAQs. FAQs. Once we have our three links created, up next is to create this drop-down menu here. So creating a drop-down menu is fairly simple. You click the Add Elements button here, you scroll down, and there's going to be a drop-down component. We drag that up into the navigation area. And if we look at the HTML elements over here, we can see that it's drop-down, navlink, and it's in the proper order. So now if we click on the preview mode, push the drop-down, we can see we have a functioning drop-down. And if we go to a responsive view, click the hamburger menu, we can see we have a working drop-down that works in the responsive navigation menu. Great, so it looks like we have our functionality and we're almost ready to style it. The only thing that's left is to add these two remaining buttons. So the way we're gonna do that is get out of preview mode, and then we're gonna go to the Add Elements, and then we're going to find the button, drag one here, and we have one button, and then I'm just gonna copy this and then paste it. And now we have two buttons. So one of them says schedule a demo. So we're gonna double click that, say schedule a demo. Then I'm gonna click on this one here. I'm gonna say login. So now let's fix some of the spacing issues here. We can see that these buttons are propped up way higher than these regular nav links, which is not identical to the design file here. And the logo here is also propped up to the top of the screen, which is not identical to the design. On the design, everything is centered on a line. So we're going to center everything so it's has equal spacing on the top and the bottom. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to click this navigation menu and we're going to hit this button right here, which makes it flex. And once we have it flex, we say align center, which you can see already, everything is already looking centered minus the logo. And once the navigation links and buttons are centered, we now have to make the logo centered. So as you can see in the markup here, we applied the flex box to all of the inner elements here to the menu, but not to the logo because it's not nested inside of here. It's actually nested outside of there. So the way we're going to fix that is we're going to wrap both of these elements into a div. So the way you do that is you add an element, get a div block, and then we're going to put it on top of the brand here. And then we're going to put this div logo inside of that div, and then the navigation inside of the div block as well. All right, and once both of the elements are inside of this new div we created here, we're going to create a new class here and say navigation inner. And this is just for our reference so we don't get confused with all of the elements. So we're going to give this a flexbox layout, and then we're going to tell this to be centered. And as you can see, the logo is now centered with everything else. And then we're just going to tell everything to go space between, which makes it go all the way to the edges here. And now we have most of our layout fairly complete. And all that's left to do is to add some minor spacing tweaks and then adjust the colors and the styling of the drop-down menu. So the first thing I'm going to do is adjust the color of the navigation here. Actually, we're going to adjust the spacing first. So I'm going to adjust the padding at the top here. And if I hold Alt, it adjusts both the top and the bottom. So I'm going to give this about 30 pixels on the top and bottom, and then I'm going to change the color to be transparent. So we go to the background menu here and drag this to transparent. And there we go. So the navigation is already starting to look fairly identical to the design that we have here. All right, next we're going to adjust the buttons here. So we're going to click this button here, and we're going to call this, give it a class of button, and then we're going to tell this button to have border radius. Let's see what the border radius is on here. It looks like it's 8 pixels corner radius, so we're going to also add 8 into our file here. And as you can see, it has some curve to it. So let's get this background color. We're going to copy that hex, and we're going to give it a new class now of button gray. So not all the buttons will be gray. We'll have to use this class for all the gray buttons that we'll use on the page. And this is important so we don't have to build this button out again. If we ever run into it in the future, we can just copy the class and then reuse it anywhere we want. So we're going to paste the background color here. And as you can see, there's a gray. And then we're going to get this text color, this dark color here. We're going to go to the color up here. We're going to paste it in. And if we preview it, we can see we're getting pretty close to the design file here. So it looks like this is also all caps. So we're going to exit preview mode here, select our button. And we're going to go to more typography options and make it all caps. And it also looks like it's bold. Up the font size of this. That looks about right. And then we're going to see the font size. It looks like we're using font size 12. So we're going to drop this from 14 to 12. And that's looking fairly close to our design file. So we're going to stick with that for now. And then we're going to build out this login button. So now we're going to click on that. We're going to give this a class of button. And then I'm going to give it another class of button link. So this is just for me to know that this button is a link type of button. It doesn't have a background color. So I'm going to make the background color transparent here. All right. And then I'm going to change the text color to be this dark color as well. We're going to select that. We're going to paste that in, and there we go. We have that. And we also see that we have this icon over here that shows a person's face. So I've already extracted this, and we're going to click on the button here, go to background images, image and gradient. And once we have that selected, we're going to say choose an image, and we're going to find the little avatar that we extracted. So this is it right here. The width is going to be, what do we have here? The width is 17 pixels, so we're also going to say 17 pixels here. And then we're going to say do not repeat. So there we go. We have the icon here, and then we're going to say center on the left and centered over here with the position. So we're going to do that. And then to this button, we're going to add some padding to the left, a little bit of extra padding. 25 looks about right. We also have this border here, which the way we're going to do that, we're going to add a div element here, another one. And we're going to place it in between the button and the link. And we're going to extract the styles of this div button. So it looks like this is the background color. The height is 25 pixels and the border is 1 pixel thick. So we're going to say height is 25. The width is 1. And then the background color, we paste it in here. All right, and then we're gonna give it let's see how much spacing it has between the button. Looks like 30 on this side, about 30 on each side. So we're gonna expand the margins to be 30. All right, now if we look at our preview mode, we can see we have that little border right there. And next we're going to style this little drop down over here. The first thing we're gonna do is, if we look on the design, we can see that the arrow is green. So we're gonna click on the arrow here, and then we're gonna extract this green color, and then I'm going to change the color right here. Green, and now it's green. And to make the size bigger, all you do is up the font size. And to make it thicker, you adjust the font weight. All right, that looks fairly proper. We're gonna target the text here, right next to the icon. And we're gonna tell this text to have margin right. We'll give it about 10 pixels, I think is fair. Actually, let's give it 5. It kind of feels off to me. Okay, so we have the design here and the button here. And that's actually solutions. I need to change that. So we're gonna modify the text here, solutions. And the navigation is looking fairly close to the design here now. Okay, now what we're gonna do is style the drop-down menu here. So if we clicked on the menu, click on settings, the way you open it in the design mode is you do this, you go here and then you click open menu. And then you go back to the stylus and you push, and now you can start tweaking the styles. So we're gonna do something fairly simple here. We're gonna tell the background to be white, and then we're going to add a simple drop shadow. And we're gonna center it first here. The shadow is gonna be on the bottom. We're going to add some blur to it, make it expand a little. As you can see, the drop down is looking like that. And then we're gonna give it some distance from the top to go down a bit. And then the size, let's keep the size small for now. And then let's adjust the color to have more opacity. And then we're gonna give it some border radius here. Let's give it about 4 pixels. And let's see what that looks like in preview mode. So if we click on it, we can see we have this menu here. And I do want to add some hover effects on these links here, so users will know that you're selecting link 1, 2, or 3. Then we're going to click on this button here, go to the stylus, and what we need to do is give it a class name. So we're going to say drop down link. So we're going to copy this class name and give it to all of the drop-down menus here so that they'll have the same repeating style. So now all of these have the same link, drop-down, same class name, it's drop-down link. And we're going to select one of them. And what we're going to do is we're going to say on hover, I want the text to turn green. So we're going to select the text here. And then I'm going to get this green color we have that's being used all over the site. Copy the hex color, paste it in here. And done. And that's what it's going to look like on hover. And we're going to go back to the normal state, look at preview, And if we click it, we can see we have these green hover effects. Awesome. I'm not going to style these hover effects here because it's going to take a lot of time and it's a fairly simple process. You saw how I did this, and you can apply a similar method to the remaining links here. But what we are going to do now is look at the responsive views. So if we look at tablet, we can see that first of all, these two are not aligned. There's something wacky going on here. So we need to look into that, as well as on all of the other smaller views. But before we do that, if we click this, we can see there are no styles here and the border is here, and that doesn't look too good. So we're gonna close this, go to the desktop mode. So I looked around a little bit and it looks like we forgot to put the menu button inside of the navigation inner when we were creating that div. So we're gonna drag that inside of here, and it's now centered on all of the screens. And it also works fine on desktop. So now that the spacing is accurate on the smaller views, we're gonna open it and we're gonna style these a little bit here. So let's get out of the preview mode. Let's keep tablet open and let's toggle this menu open. And it's not looking very pleasing right now. So the first thing we wanna do is get rid of this border. We will not need it on the menu. So if I select the little border here, I'm going to say go to the stylist here, and then I'm going to say hide. And when I say hide, it's going to hide on the tablet view and any screens lower. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell the schedule button to have spacing on the right. So I'm going to give it some margin on the right, but before I do that, I don't want to apply it to this button gray class. So I'm going to just create a class name called, a utility class called margin right, MR, and I'll just enter. That just stands for margin right. It's for my reference. It's not exactly the cleanest way of doing things, but it works good enough. So we're going to give it 30 pixels. That seems to be a repeating spacing pattern on this website, so we'll use that. Next, what we're going to do is change this background color to be white. So we're going to change the background color of the drop-down to be white. Let's just add a little box shadow, kind of like we did with the drop-down menu. Give it a 180, change the color to be a little more light, like so. And let's see what that looks like. All right, that looks fine to me. I'm okay with that shadow border here. I don't like how there's no spacing on the button here, so we're gonna add a little bit of padding on the lower half here. And if we add some, I'm gonna add 15, that's half of 30. And if we open the drop-down menu here, it looks a little weird, the shadow. So we're gonna give that some other treatment, some different design treatment, because that doesn't look right. It looks fine on the desktop view up here, that looks normal. But as soon as we open that drop-down menu on these responsive views, that looks whack. We're gonna click on our menu button here, and then we're gonna say open menu, and then we're gonna click on this little bit here. We're gonna open this menu. So there's two open menus right now, and what we're gonna do is get rid of this box shadow we have going here. We go to our, we find out where we added the drop shadow, which is right here, and we're gonna delete it. And then what I'm going to do is to show the users that this is a sub menu, we're going to give it some padding on the left side here. And that way users can see that it's nested in. We're going to give it 30 pixels of padding. Yeah, I think that looks good. So now let's hit that publish button here. And now we're going to look at the live link. And here is what we built. Looks like the navigation link is working. And that's awesome. And then if we crunch it down to a smaller view on mobile, looks like our responsive menu is working as well. So there's a lot of ways to create navigation menus, many different ways. You can write custom code, you can build it in Webflow, and there's also many different designs. And it really just depends on what use case you need it for. There are some navigation menus that have like 50 buttons, which is really crazy. And then there's more simple ones like this, where there's one simple drop-down menu with a few buttons. So this was a fairly simple navigation button to make with Webflow. So if you have any questions about how I made this, or you need some advice on how to make a specific type of navigation menu, leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to see more Webflow tutorials in the future, hit that subscribe button. All right, thanks for watching. Peace.